So a fella goes to a baseball game, and he looks down to some of the box seats that are like right behind first base. And he notices there's this guy sitting there with an empty seat behind him. And he thought to himself, you know what? If nobody shows up, I just might walk down and ask if I could sit there. So first inning, no one shows up. Second inning, no one shows up. By the third inning, the guy in the upper deck, he says, you know what, I'm walking down. So he goes down, walks up next to the guy, and he says, is this seat empty? And the fellow there, he says, yeah, my wife and I bought these box seats years ago, and every year we would come here to the ball game and watch baseball. We both love baseball. And you know, the gentleman from the upper deck, he's like, "What, is your wife coming?" And the man there, he says, no, my wife passed away, so, but I still come, and I keep paying for the season tickets for these seats in honor of my wife. Well, the guy from the upper deck is just like, wow, I'm so sorry to hear that, but surely you may have had a friend or a family member who could use this seat. And the guy in the box seat, he says, well, they probably would have come, but they're all at the funeral right now. Now, I don't tell you that story to get a laugh. I really don't. I share that story to disgust you, as it should. I mean, to think that there is somebody that is that cold and indifferent toward others. I mean, that kind of thoughtlessness, it should make us sick. It really should. Unfortunately, there are far too many people in the world that are just like that. They only think of themselves. Which is why the apostles spoke about this issue so often. As the apostles were writing the New Testament, there are a lot of times they stress that we need to be considerate and mindful and thoughtful of those around us. Romans 15:1 says this, we who are strong in the faith must be considerate of those who are sensitive about things like this. We must not just please ourselves. Paul writes that. In other words, our thoughtfulness needs to extend beyond meeting the physical needs of others. We also need to consider how our actions will affect them as well. Question number 3 asks this. It says, is meeting the needs of others more important to me than meeting my needs? Well, as we consider the question, we should first examine what Jesus told a rich young man one day. As you're thinking about, do I only think about my own needs, or am I actually concerned about the needs of others? And before you answer that, consider the story that Jesus tells a young man who, a very wealthy young man, who apparently had this issue of being self-focused and self-absorbed and only thought about his own needs. In Luke 18, this rich young man asked Jesus, he's like, what do I need to do to inherit eternal life? And now, mind you, the fellow, he said he followed most of the commandments. He said, I've done these ever since I've been very young. And so Jesus kind of turns the tables on him a little bit. And Luke 18:22, Christ looks at this guy and says, my paraphrase, he's like, great, there's only one more thing you need to do. Sell all your possessions and give your money to the poor, and then you will have treasure in heaven. Now, here was a young man who was very focused on obeying God. I mean, we'll take his word for what he said, that he had obeyed God. He was very focused on obeying God, but obviously gave little thought to the needs of others, to the needs around him. And according to Jesus, our relationship with others is just as important as our relationship with the Father. So our actions, it's not that we just care for the needs of those around us, or better yet, it's not that we just care about others in our heart. but our actions need to demonstrate that as well. We must demonstrate thoughtfulness toward those around us, not just thinking about our needs and not just thinking about what they need. There needs to be action involved there. The reason I tell you this is because I if I were to do a self-evaluation, I would say that yes, indeed, my heart is broken. It's soft towards others. I'm very mindful of what's going on in those around me. I generally do care, but sometimes I don't put that care into action. It's early in the pandemic. I think it was a Tuesday evening. A mother and a young daughter just happened to stop by the church looking for some financial help. I happened to be there all alone, and I explained the process that is in place at the church, that we just don't have cash that we pass out. And the problem was that they were hungry now. And I apologized to them and was about to send them on the way when the Lord kind of, I don't know, he kind of jumped out from behind the door, grabbed me by the scruff of the neck and pile drived me right there into the carpet in the hallway and said, he reminded me of the cash that I had in my wallet. And, he's like, Greg, you're not completely helpless here. You can help these people if you're willing to make a sacrifice. I cared about their situation, but I didn't take the next step to actually put that thoughtfulness into action. So God had to get the best of me then, so I would respond and help these people out. I find it to be very unfortunate that God had to smack me in the back of the head. I find it troubling that God had to put a smackdown on me to be thoughtful and care for their needs. Don't just have sympathy for them. Put it into action. And he has to constantly remind me to do that. I wish he didn't have. I wish it wasn't like that. There's so often that God does that in my life. He reminds me to put my compassion, my thoughtfulness into action. Do you ever struggle with that? Do you have problems with that too? I hope I'm not the only one. I hope I'm not the only one that gets a swift kick in the behind from God every now and then. Well, we're going to continue to talk about thoughtfulness tomorrow. You've been watching Transforming the World. My name's Pastor Greg. I'll talk to you tomorrow.